Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on lead and copper site plans. Thank you for joining us. My name is Rebecca Taves. I am the communications coordinator with the Drinking Water Protection Communications and Strategic Initiatives Unit. If you could go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a reaction of some kind to let me know that you can, in fact, hear me with your audio, that'd be great. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items first here. And I do see some hands up, so I will go ahead and answer those questions shortly. Make sure that you mute your phones and your microphones for this meeting. I see some thumbs up in the chats. That's great. Thank you very much. Which brings me to my next bullet point. You can use the chat feature and the Q&A feature to ask any questions that you have during this webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send out a link to it after the event. We present this information via webinar at least once per year. Throughout the year, you have several opportunities to learn more about lead and copper rule requirements. We recommend that even if you're taking this training, you might still want to go ahead and sign up for any of those other trainings that we have that you can receive educational credit hours for attending. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll be inviting Jackie Becker to go ahead and unmute her microphone at this time to share more with you about lead and copper site plan requirements. Jackie, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Rebecca. Oops, went back there by accident. But yeah, I'm Jackie Becker, one of the lead and copper compliance officers for community water systems, specifically on lead and copper rules. So let's see. So what we're going to go through today, super high level, what is the lead and copper site plan? How to select your sampling locations, how to complete the site plan, and all the information that you need to complete it. The process for sampling and chain of custody, most of that is exactly the same, and then just some resources that we have available for you. So what is the lead and copper site plan? What am I talking about when I say that? It's just an Excel workbook, Excel spreadsheet that we're using to track and confirm the tier of your lead and copper sites and those sites that you use for sampling. Why you have to prepare a lead and copper site plan? It is old original lead and copper rule that sample sites need to be selected based on the tier criteria. We've always left that up to systems to select their sites, and we've always just, in the past, we've asked for an address and a tier number, and then those sites were deemed good to go. But upon EPA inspecting more systems in Minnesota, they found that there's insufficient data basically to support why you're selecting that site to use for sampling and the tier for that site. So it's an EPA priority. It's a priority for us as well to just make sure that everybody's sampling properly from where they should be and that those tier classifications have been verified. So how this can be beneficial to you, it is another requirement. It is a very time-consuming requirement, so not to minimize any of that, but it is, if EPA inspects your system, this is one of the things that they're looking for. They're going to ask for your sample site plan, how you got to those sampling locations, why you selected them, and ask for all this supporting documentation. So it can help you avoid a violation on that front. But kind of on the inventory side of things, homeowners and residents are more interested in lead in drinking water, especially after delivering notices to them saying you're served by a lead, a galvanized, or an unknown service line. So while you can't provide them the site plan directly, that's private information, but the addresses are the private information, but it can help provide some assurance in your customers when you say, this is something we sample for on whatever monitoring schedule you're on, whether that's twice a year, once a year, every 3 years, and you select your sites based on specific criteria that are the most at-risk sites, which we'll talk more about. So can be beneficial to you. It is another requirement, but there are some benefits to having all of this data and tracking it. So really quick to just distinguish between the two, because there was a lot of confusion between the two requirements. So the service line inventory is your entire distribution system classifying your services into 4 materials. This started, or the first due date for this was October 16th, 2024, and this will, from here on out, be an annual requirement to either update or confirm that you didn't have any changes in your system each and every year. This is different from the site plan, which is specific to when you're scheduled to sample, and it's just your sample site. So if you only need 10, 20 sites for sampling, whatever it is, your site plan only needs to have those 10 or 20 sites on there, and then you're selecting those sites based on the tier criteria, which we'll talk more about, but tier 1, if you have those are your highest risk sites, and then moving through the tiers, tier 4 would be your lowest risk sites. And this site plan, again, is just something that you will complete and review basically every time you're scheduled to sample. So re-verifying this information at whatever frequency you're scheduled to sample. So how we get this number of sites that you need for sampling, it's all just based on population served. So, and then if you're on a standard monitoring, so standard monitoring is collecting twice a year, or reduced monitoring, which is collecting annually or triennially every 3 years. So it's all just based on population served there. So if you know about what your population served is, then you can figure out just how many sites you'll need for your site plan and for sampling. Why it's important to determine a tier number. So why do we care so much about making sure systems are sampling at their highest risk, lowest tier number sites? So it establishes a risk classification for their site. So in lead and copper sampling, it's about evaluating if your water is corrosive to service lines and internal plumbing. So how we'd want to evaluate that is by using a site that if your water was corrosive, we would see that. So a tier 1 site, your highest risk, highest priority site, if you have them, you should use them for sampling, is a single family home with a lead service line. If your water was corrosive to lead, we would see that at a site with a lead service line. Compared to a tier 4 site, which is a home built after 1985, that's after the lead ban, we wouldn't necessarily see if your water was corrosive to that home because there's no lead present at that home if it was all built after the lead ban. So kind of high level why it's important to pick your highest risk sites, and then why we care so much about making sure our systems are using those highest risk sites. So to work through the tier criteria, and for tier 1 and 2, there is a priority within the tiers. So first priority, highest priority, if you have them, you should use them for sampling, single family home with a lead service line. The next priority, single family homes with internal lead plumbing. And this is written out as a flow chart. So ask yourself these questions about your system. Do I have any single family homes with a lead service line? Yes, add them to your site plan. Do you have enough to meet your minimum required, or do you need more to meet your minimum required? So just working through it like a flow chart like that. So second priority, single family homes with internal lead plumbing. You don't have to get into every home to verify there's no lead internal plumbing, but obviously if you know it's present in a home, then that site should likely be on your site plan, depending on how many single family homes with a lead service you have. The next priority, single family homes with a lead gooseneck. And then the last priority within tier 1 is a single family home built between 83 and 85 with copper with lead solder internal plumbing. So for the copper with lead solder, we just assume any old original pre-85, so pre-lead ban copper to just contain lead solder. You don't have to test the solder or anything like that, but just verifying that it is old original pre-lead ban copper, and then we can assume the lead solder there. So thinking about your system, if you have these sites in your system, adding them to your site plan. Do you need more sites to meet your minimum required? Whatever your situation is. Moving to tier 2 is the same as tier 1, but for multifamily homes or other buildings. So first priority within tier 2 is a multifamily home or other building with a lead service line, multifamily home or other building with internal lead plumbing. The next priority is multifamily home or other building with a lead gooseneck. And then the last priority within tier 2 is the same multifamily home or other building installed between 83 and 85 with the same copper with lead solder internal plumbing. So same assumption with the copper with lead solder there. Then moving to tier 3 is a single family home that has copper with lead solder installed before 83. So same assumption with the copper with lead solder, old original pre-85 copper just contains lead solder. This is just for a single family home before 83. And then the last priority, so lowest priority, avoided for sampling for most systems unless you're one of these two cases. So your water system installed post 1985, so you're all after the lead ban, everything's new. Or your water system that has all sample sites with a point of use or point of entry device installed. So caveat with lead and copper sampling is that sample sites should not have any filters or softeners on the tap that's used for sampling. You can have a whole house softener. If kitchen cold is hard water, that kitchen cold is the acceptable sampling location. But just an added step that needs to be verified, the tap that's going to be used for sampling should not be connected to any filters or softeners. So that was the tier criteria. So where can you find the site plan template? There's a link, a QR code, but really if you put in any search browser, MDH lead and copper site plan, it'll be the first page that comes up. It looks like this, lead and copper site plan updates. And then on there, there's a creating your lead and copper site plan section where you can download the Excel template and save it to your computer. So I will actually do that now. Let me see if I can get this up here. So this is just any search browser, but if you do MDH lead and copper site plan, I've done this before on here, so it's auto-filling for me, but this first lead and copper site plan updates is the tab, and then you can see the headers lead and copper site plan updates, and in this creating your lead and copper site plan section, you can see it says in parentheses Excel. This is where it will click. It will open the spreadsheet in a web browser. Make sure you download it. We've had a few systems edit this on the web browser and then try to send it over to us and it didn't save. So just making sure that we download here. It'll show up in our downloads. It's going to come up on the wrong screen. And then editing the downloaded version. And then from there, keep it in your downloads, save it to your desktop, whatever folder saving mechanism you have, just save it in your files somewhere locally on your computer, and when you send it to us, just dropping it as an attachment into the email. So, and typically, I think I've opened this too many times for the notice to keep popping up, but typically somewhere like where my cursor is, a yellow bar shows up that says enable editing. Just making sure you click that. It's just saying you've downloaded something from the internet. Are you sure it's safe? So just making sure you click enable editing there. Otherwise you won't be able to modify this at all. So instructions, there's 5 tabs here. The first one is the instructions tab. So inputting system information on sheet 1, reading through sheet 2 to determine your sites that you're going to use for sampling. So sheet 2 is just that tier flowchart that we just went through. Site information goes on sheet 3, and then sheet 4 is just a confirmation to verify what you think you put on sheet 3 is actually on sheet 3. So if we move to sheet 1 here, just general system information, water system name, PWS ID. If we put in a population here of, let's say our population's 10,000, over here it'll populate the number of sites that you need for standard monitoring or for reduced monitoring. So just there for you for reference. So it's all in one place when you're filling out sites on sheet 3. That's your reference for how many sample sites should be on sheet 3. This would also be on your annual monitoring schedule. So everybody should have gotten their annual monitoring schedules already. They went out at the end of December. If for some reason you didn't get your 2026 AMS, just let us know so we can get another one mailed out, but that would also be there. And then contact information. So this should be for whoever we can call or email if we have any questions or want to verify any information. Sheet 2, I'll zoom in a little here. The font's a little small, but so the same tier flow chart that we just went through. And just using it as a flow chart. Do I have any single family homes with a lead service line in my system? If the answer is no, then we move to the next one. Do I have any single family homes with internal lead plumbing? Say, yes, I have one of those. Click here to see the status. So then your status says if you've exhausted sites from status 1, which status 1 was our single family home with the lead service, then filling in with the rest of these sites. As many as you have. If you have enough to meet your minimum required, great. If not, then adding those sites and moving to the next one until you get another yes, basically until you meet your minimum number of sites required. Sheet 3 here is where we'll put our site specific information. So site ID, you can leave blank. We'll fill this in. If it's a site that you've used previously, we'll already have the site ID for it, but if it's a new site, we'll have to add a site ID. It'll get a new one. So you can leave that one blank, and then this tier number column will auto-populate after we've gone through all of these other columns. So site address, if we just put our address as 123 Main Street, oops. And then system side service line. So these are all just drop downs. The options lead, copper, galvanized, plastic, or other. So say our system side service line's unknown. We didn't have any records from our inventory. We couldn't figure out what the system side service line is. So our system side service line is actually unknown. We can put other here and then slide over to the right, and in the notes, just make a note that the system side service line is unknown. So then you have for reference, we have for reference that that system side service line is unknown there. But say our customer side service line is lead. That's why we want it on our site plan. That's why we want to use it for sampling. So that service line is lead. Internal plumbing 1, we can say this is old original copper. Hasn't been replaced. It's not new. So we're just going to assume it's old original pre-85 copper. So it is copper with lead solder, but they have replaced half of their internal plumbing with new PEX. So internal plumbing 2 is optional, but if there is a situation where they've replaced half of their internal plumbing or their internal plumbing is mixed, you add the second one there as needed. If there's more than 2, I'd say use the 2 most commonly found, just the one little 1-foot strip of galvanized or whatever might not need to be included, just the 2 most common there if there's more than 2 present. Home type, single family home, multifamily, or other. So we'll say this is a single family home. Lead connector / gooseneck present. So we don't know what the system side service line is, so we don't really know what the connector or gooseneck status is. So we'll say no here. No is kind of assumed to be unknown as well. So if it's unknown, the assumption's likely no. Galvanized material downstream of an LSL. So this column is just trying to understand if there's galvanized material at that site, whether it's a galvanized service line or galvanized internal plumbing.
Okay, yeah.
Is it galvanized requiring replacement or not?
Hand soap that's not as thick.
There's a
right?
little feedback. If somebody could just mute their mic there. I'm not sure who that is. Okay, it's gone. Sorry. So, if there's galvanized material at that site, whether it's a galvanized service or galvanized internal plumbing, is it galvanized requiring replacement or not? So at this site, we don't know what the system side service line is. Our customer side service line is lead. Our internal plumbing is copper and plastic. So for this site, it's not applicable. There's no galvanized material present at that site. And then our review is just getting a confirmation that there is no galvanized material at that site. If we tried to put galvanized material was or is downstream of lead, we're getting an error because there was no galvanized material provided at that site. So this review column is just a check to make sure what you put in this galvanized material downstream of LSL column, just to make sure that makes sense. But if there was galvanized material, either it was or is downstream of lead, it is galvanized requiring replacement, or the galvanized material was never downstream of lead, so it's not galvanized requiring replacement. And this is just information from your inventory to verify if it's galvanized requiring replacement or not. Year built, Before 83, between 83 and 85, or after 85, we only need those three ranges. So if we say this is before 83, if you have the specific year, great, you can add it there, but it's not necessarily required. Point of use or point of entry on the tap to be sampled. So is there a filter softener connected to the tap that they will use for sampling? So say this site has a whole house softener, but we verified that kitchen cold is hard water. We would say no here. And then I find it helpful. I think more the more notes the better, but we can just say a whole house softener is present, but kitchen cold is hard water. Just so then you have for reference, we have for reference. There is a softener present in that home, but it was verified that that kitchen cold water was hard water, and therefore it is the acceptable sampling location. And then our sample location would have to be kitchen because that's the hard water tap present in the home. And this cold water sample tap location, we have kitchen, bathroom, or other, but for a single family home, for the vast majority of municipal systems, just kitchen or bathroom. Other should really only be used in like an assisted living facility where maybe there's a communal drinking water tap that everybody's using. So primarily kitchen or bathroom locations in a single family home. It should just be wherever they're getting their water to use every day, and for most people that's the kitchen, but if it happens to be the bathroom, that would be acceptable as well. So we filled in all of the site information. We have a single family home with a lead service line and no point of use or point of entry device on the tap to be sampled. So we're getting our site as tier 1. If we were to change this point of use, point of entry on the tap to be sampled to be yes, now we're getting acceptance review that basically says no, sample site shouldn't have any filters or softeners on the tap to be sampled. Really, unless your whole system is like that. If that's your case, you just have to let us know. But if we have this as yes, then we're getting our tier is now tier 4 because of that point of use or point of entry device. So if we look at sheet 4, so this is just the confirmation to verify if what you put on sheet 3 is actually on sheet 3. So if we thought we put 5 single-family homes with lead service lines on sheet 3, we're getting our confirmation as no, that 5 more of those need to be added to sheet 3. If we go back and look at sheet 3, we have one tier 4 site. And it's tier 4 because of that point of use or point of entry device. So just a verification, well, did I mean to put yes in that filter softener column? Is that correct? Or should that have been a no if data was just entered incorrectly? But we get our yes because we have one site with a point of use or point of entry device installed. So that's just how this confirmation works, just a verification to verify with what you think you put on this sheet is actually kind of calculating to be on that sheet. So just a helpful check there. I will jump back to slides now, maybe. Let's see. Okay, so that's kind of fairly high level, just going through the spreadsheet, but it's all just drop downs, writing in your site addresses, and then filling out all of the site information that you need there. So how to obtain all of this site information. So system side and customer side service line. At the time of sampling, you either know this or you don't. So it's okay for system or customer side service line to be unknown. Just use your inventory at the time of sampling, and as part of annual inventory updates and annual inventory review, you will be identifying service line materials. So at the time of sampling, just use your inventory. Do you have any lead on your inventory? If there's lead on your inventory, add it to your site plan. But okay for some of this for the service line information to be unknown if that's where your system's at with your inventory. Internal plumbing, it just needs to be verified with the homeowner. If home inspection works, if you have any sort of historical records, just verifying with the homeowner. what's your internal plumbing? If they say it's copper, is it old original copper or have you replaced it recently? Just verifying that the internal plumbing, just verifying what the internal plumbing is, and then if it's copper, obviously verifying that it is old original to determine if you can make the assumption that it's copper with lead solder. Home type, I think most systems or most operators know where the single family homes are, where the businesses in town are in general, but just making sure that you verify that information, speak with the homeowner, verify when you drop off the bottles, whatever it is. Because if a home used to be single family, say it used to be a single family, but it looks like they turned it into a duplex, now it's going to be a multifamily home and it's going to change the tier of the site. So it might no longer be your highest priority site if in fact it has changed to a multifamily home or it's changed to another building, now it's a business, whatever it is, but just something that needs to be verified when you drop off, pick up the bottles, on the sample forms that the resident fills out, whatever it is, just something that needs to be verified. Lead connector / gooseneck present, best available information that you have in your system. For a lot of systems, this might be unknown. So just kind of best available information that you have there. Obviously, if you know there's a gooseneck there, then it's an easy yes, but best available information that you have there. Galvanized material downstream of a lead service line. So is it galvanized requiring replacement or not? And you can just use your inventory. If you have a galvanized service line on your inventory, is that service galvanized requiring replacement? As part of the definition of galvanized requiring replacement, and in Minnesota in general, 99% of galvanized service lines are just assumed to be galvanized requiring replacement because you would have to prove that it's never been downstream of lead. And in most cases, no one has that documentation to prove that it's never been downstream of lead. So most galvanized services are just assumed to be galvanized requiring replacement. And then making the same assumption for galvanized internal plumbing. When it's required to replace galvanized internal plumbing, but can you prove that that galvanized internal plumbing has never been downstream of lead to determine whether or not that would be galvanized requiring replacement or not. Year built or specific year built. So I've heard a lot of success from systems going to their county assessor and just asking for a list of year built dates, especially if you don't have any lead service lines, you don't have any lead internal plumbing, you don't have any lead goosenecks. Now you're looking for homes built between 83 and 85, and the county should be able to give you a list of those year built dates, and then you can go target your outreach to those homes, verify their filter softener status, and then verifying their internal plumbing. So a great resource. I've heard a lot of success with systems doing that, and then even just doing it for before 83 homes if you don't have any or enough between 83 and 85 homes, just depending on where you fall. But there are other ways to get those. A lot of realtors have that information, etc. So point of use or point of entry on the tap to be sampled. I say site inspection's probably best, especially if you're trying to verify if there's a hard water tap going to the kitchen or bathroom. So discuss with the homeowner if there's a filter or softener present. Do a site inspection. You can do a hardness test strip of the home's water sample. If the resident has verified that there's a softener present and you want to confirm if kitchen cold is hard water, you can do a hardness test strip of the home's water sample, but this can't be done in the bottle, in the sample bottle that's going to be analyzed for lead and copper, so it would have to be done in a separate bottle. And prior to sampling would be best, but you could do it technically at the same time as sampling, it just cannot be in that same sampling bottle. And then making note of that bypass being present either on your site plan or on another form, wherever it is that you have verified that that kitchen cold is hard water. And just a note here, this needs to be reconfirmed at every sampling event. Really, all of this information needs to be reconfirmed at every sampling event. So every time you sample, verifying that their filter softener status in the home hasn't changed, internal plumbing hasn't been replaced, Service line replacement, you would all be aware of, but just re-verifying this information, making sure nothing's changed in the home every time you sample. Cold water sample tap location should be confirmed with the homeowner. It should also be recorded on the community tap water sample form that the resident fills out. But please QA/QC those community tap water sample forms. The sample tap for lead and copper sample, the tap should only be stagnant for 6 to 12 hours, and it has to be taken from a drinking water tap, so kitchen or bathroom. And if there's only one hard water tap, it should be from that one drinking water hard water tap. So verify that information. If the residents indicate in any way that that sample was taken improperly, whether the tap was stagnant too long, they took it from the outside spigot or the slop sink in the basement, whatever it is, that can invalidate the sample. But if it goes to the lab, it gets analyzed and it comes back high, it has to count towards the 90th percentile. We can't invalidate a sample after it's been analyzed by the lab and it's been high. So if you QA/QC your documents ahead of time, make sure everything on the community tap water sample form matches your site plan and is correct. It follows sample collection procedures. Verifying that information. If it's incorrect, and you verify with the resident, oh yeah, they took the sample wrong. They went on a long weekend vacation and they took the sample right when they got home. The tap was stagnant for 48 plus hours, whatever it is. Throw the sample out. We'll get you a new sample bottle. We'll get it collected properly, but avoid getting a high result just because a sample was taken improperly. So my plug to QA/QC your paperwork and what the residents are providing for you. So do what you can to prevent a high result just because a sample was taken improperly. On a similar note, the information from your site plan versus the community tap water sample form. So on the left here, this is just a screenshot of a part of a community tap water sample form, should match your site plan. So if the resident is filling out this community tap water sample form and saying the home or building has a water softener, they're saying yes, but on the site plan it says no, you should follow up with the resident and confirm if there's a hard water tap that they use for sampling, verifying how that softener is plumbed, verifying this information and making sure it lines up. If it doesn't, this could be a violation and it could lead to increased monitoring. So just making sure, again, QA/QC these community tap water sample forms. We know residents taking samples for you is difficult and in most cases a little messy, but just verifying the information that they're putting on this community tap water sample form, making sure it matches your site plan. And if samples need to be recollected because, oh, yep, there is a softener present in the home, we need a new site to replace that one, we can do that, but it needs to be caught, ahead of time. So QA/QC your paperwork and make sure everything matches what they provided in the first place. So once you've gathered all of this information, you have your site plan all filled out, you got all of the information that you need, you can submit it to us here, health.community.leadandcopper. It'll go to the 5 of us that are on community lead and copper compliance, probably get you the fastest response, but I just have please submit as soon as possible just because it's dependent on when you're scheduled to sample. I think most people joining today are June to September 2026. So a good goal, I'll say, is probably around May 31st before the monitoring period starts. So you don't have any delays in sampling. The review process does take a little time. It's fairly quick, but just making sure you submit early enough to where we have enough time to review and approve and get you going for sampling. So the earlier the better. If you can have it or are halfway through or whatever it is and can have it within a month, great. We'll review it as soon as we get it, but just as soon as possible. So all sample kits are coming with a chain of custody that look like this. The site plan has been a 3-year rollout, so starting in 24, 25 and 26 will be our last year of the rollout. So we're kind of in this in between where some systems have an approved site plan, some don't yet because they haven't been scheduled to sample yet. So all sample kits are coming with a chain of custody that looks like this. It's just saying that for compliance, you have to do your lead and copper site plan. Once you get us your site plan, we review it and approve it, we will email you directly the chain of custody that you can use for sampling. It'll be pre-filled with the addresses that have been approved from your site plan. So don't panic if this is in your sample kit, but just know this is another reminder that you have to do your site plan prior to sampling. But once you do that, we will get you the chain of custody that you need. Sample collection procedures. They do come in the sample kits, but if you want to review them ahead of time or anything like that, they are all online as well. So if, again, kind of same as before, if you put in any search browser, MDH sample collection procedures, it'll be the first web page that comes up. It does have everything that you can need to sample for on there, so a great resource for the other things that you need to sample for, but there is a lead and copper section with the 4 documents that come in your sample kit. There's also a lead and copper sampling video that you could refer the residents that are going to sample for you. You could refer them to that video. It just goes through how to collect the sample in a more visual way than just reading the sample collection procedures. So in there is the community tap water sample form I've talked about a lot. It is a very important document. And you put a lot of trust in the residents that are going to sample for you, that they do it right and properly. So we don't need copies of these. The labs don't need copies of these. They're meant for the system to hang on to. Keep them on your records for 12 years. After you get them back from the residents, QA/QC them. Make sure everything looks right, everything matches your site plan, all samples were collected properly, and then just file them away. So whether put them in a filing cabinet, you can scan them into your computer. However your filing system works, but hang on to them. We don't need them. The labs don't need them. Just keep them on your own records. So if you are having difficulty or want help getting people to participate in sampling for you, Rebecca Taves, who got us all started up today, is one of our communications people, and she can help develop materials that will hopefully interest people in sampling. So this should be something that's targeted, so you don't want to send this to everyone in your system and promise sampling to people who will not end up meeting your highest priority sites. So this should be a targeted outreach, but targeting, the group of lead service lines in your system that you want to get to sample for you, or the group of homes between 83 and 85 that you want to get to sample for you. So we have seen some success with door hangers. Then, they don't have to go through the process of opening an envelope from the city. They can, just take the door hanger off their door, skim it quickly, and maybe hopefully spark some interest. So a little bit of success with door hangers, but if you want help developing materials, Rebecca's email is there. So what if you can't get those highest priority sites to sample for you? They don't respond or they refuse, whatever it is. We have a record of participation form to document that. It is on the same lead and copper site plan updates webpage that the site plan was on. And it is a minimum of 2 outreach attempts with a non-response or 1 customer refusal, and you can move on from that site. We just need it documented so we have the method and attempts of contact, whether that's in-person, phone call, letter, email, date, and then any notes that you have on there. But either you made contact with the homeowner and they refused to participate in sampling, or they refused for you to inspect their home, or no contact was made. So a fairly straightforward form. This we will take a copy of. So if you have non-responses or refusals, we will take a copy of these forms. But just need to document either the non-response or refusal, and then you can move on from that site. This really only needs to be used if you have a higher priority site, and as a result of that non-response or refusal, you're going to move to a lower priority site. So if you have your group of lead service lines that you're trying to get to sample, a couple of those don't respond or refuse, so you're going to move to some single family homes built between 83 and 85 with copper with lead solder, whatever it is, we'll document the non-response or refusal for the lead service line sites, and then you can move on to those other sites. So violations. So if you sample before submitting a site plan or without submitting a site plan, it may be a monitoring and reporting violation. It would require a tier 3 public notice in the CCR, and if you're on a triennial monitoring schedule, you'll be moved to an annual monitoring schedule until that violation's returned to compliance, and then you can return to your original triennial monitoring schedule. But if you submit your site plan early, get your samples collected early within the monitoring period, and this can really be avoided altogether. So just some resources that we have available. So, and on that same Lead and Copper Site Plan Updates webpage, there's a frequently asked question sheet. There's about 12 or so general questions about the site plan, what to do about filter softeners, just kind of general information. So that's there as a good resource. And then there is a webinar recording. So what's on the website now is last year's webinar recording, but it's the same presentation as this year. We'll get this one uploaded to replace last year's. But a good resource if you want to rewatch, revisit a specific section of the presentation, anything like that, any specific information, it is up there for you for reference. So you can review it anytime that you need. Sampling in the future. So you're going to get your site plan updated for this next monitoring round. Then what does this look like in the future? Your sample sites should remain the same, obviously, as possible. If you need to change a site, just let us know. We can document a record of participation form. And then each time you sample, you'll have to verify, has there been a point of use or point of entry filter softener update in the home? Have they replaced the softener, added one, modified one, whatever it is? Has there been a service line replacement? Have we replaced any of our lead service lines? And do we now need to reevaluate where our highest priority sites are? Has there been any internal plumbing replacements? If we're using sites with copper with lead solder internal plumbing, have they replaced it all with new PEX? What does that do to the tier of the site? So every time you sample, you should be reevaluating your sample sites, making sure you're still using your highest priority sites. And if you need to make changes, just let us know and we can go from there. So just a note on what the future looks like after we get everything updated for this year. Chain of custodies, the plan with all the moving parts is probably for them to still come from us in an email for now. More to come there, but that's currently what the process looks like. So there's 5 of us on community lead and copper compliance. Olivia and I do most of the site plan work, so we would be the best point of contact for that, or you can email that health.community.leadandcopper inbox, and effectively that goes to all 5 of us. But here's my contact information. Thanks for listening to me ramble about site plans for a bit.